There is a particular hush that arrives at dusk along the old Nile mouth, a thin, generous silence that is not empty so much as full of patient things waiting to be listened to. We stand together at the shore where the land unlaces itself and the sea accepts the day, and the air here tastes of reed and salt and the faint warmth of sun-stored stone. Feel the sand beneath your feet, a cool, fine texture that gives and holds. Notice the small pressure at the base of your skull where evening settles its weight. From the west, a gull thread cuts the low light with a single, courteous note, and beneath that note the tide breathes in a long, slow cadence that steadies the pulse. The sound is round and sibilant, as if speech has been taught to the water and it answers in one vowel. It is a curious fact that water translates the world into softer grammar, a shout recast into a vowel, a hammer mark into a distant, polite ring, footsteps into hollows that the tide can fill and smooth. Here, in this softened tongue, Canopus keeps its small stories, a boat's rope rasp, a merchant's low counting, the hush of a courtyard where bread was turned and folded. These are not heroic noises. They are the music of habit, and habit is the form of human endurance that time most kindly remembers. We will move slowly, with the circling patience of someone tending a lamp. There is no need for suddenness. The city's revealed edges arrive like friends calling a name, gently, deliberately, with a courtesy that asks only to be seen. Breathe with the tide now. Inhale as it draws a little away, hold, and exhale as it returns. Let that rhythm soften the shoulders and ease the jaw. The reader will perhaps imagine a low terrace ahead, worn basalt steps half hidden in seaweed, a carved lintel catching the late light with a faint, unreadable motif. We float toward that lintel in imagination, palms near though not touching, and in the space between hand and stone we practice a small reverence. The lintel's circle in circle is modest but insistently human. It tells us that someone once marked threshold and home in a single, careful gesture. From the quay, a faint aroma threads through the air, fish, citrus, the resinous trace of oil, and it is not harsh. It is a domestic olfaction, the smell of daily life folded into geography. Imagine the merchant's crate opening as a small percussion, the sound of coins set down like a soft punctuation, the low murmur of bargaining that sounds in the dark like waves rubbing against plank. Listen to these small instruments of routine. They are the city's archive and the sea its quiet conservator. We are companions in this listening. One might suppose that to reconstruct a place we need maps and dates, and certainly the scholar in us keeps modest notes. Yet tonight we prefer to learn by ear. Sonar and cores will speak later in the laboratory. For now we let the tactile and the immediate guide us. The texture of stone under a palm, the warmth of sun-baked mosaic even through a slow film of water, the tiny thumb polish on a peg that reads like a signature. The tide offers us a pageant of small unveilings, a line of columned drums like sleeping teeth, a stare that continues stubbornly beneath silt, the half-gloss of a mosaic corner. Each appearance is measured and brief, as if the past allows a glance and then withdraws to preserve the intimacy of what it shows. We savor these moments the way one savors a single note in a long song, letting it resonate, then folding it into silence. It is not only buildings that remain, but habits. A child's coin will sit in the silt like a deliberate punctuation. An old rope will keep the memory of a knot in its fibers. A bull's lip will keep the thumbprints of hands that shaped it. These small traces are intimate and particular. They invite empathy because they are so ordinary. We place our attention on them as if setting a small lamp on a bedside table, not to glorify, but to be companionably present. Before we leave this shore and walk, in imagination, the city's submerged courtyards, rest for one breath more. Inhale slowly, hold, and exhale long. Let the salt and reed and cooling stone be a backdrop to a slower inner weather. We will go on, but not hurriedly. The night is patient and the sea is kind, and together we shall learn how to let history be gentle company. We step away from the immediate hush of waves and allow a larger map to unfold, not as a chart of dates, but as a soft geography that smells faintly of reed and old papyrus. One might suppose that to place Canopus precisely on a map would be to flatten it. Instead, we prefer to trace the feel of its position, where a branch of the Nile met the Mediterranean, making a mouth and a harbor, a place favored by merchants, lovers of ease, and votaries who like the sea for its temperate patience. Imagine the delta as a wide, whispering margin, sediment drifting like slow breath, channels making and unmaking shorelines in a fashion that is almost conversational. Currents here act like marginalia on a long, slow page, annotating and erasing with equal politeness. The geography is not a single line but a braided conversation between river and sea, and Canopus sat at a convenient, ceremonial bend where boats found mooring and processions found beach. We step away from the immediate hush of waves and allow a larger map to unfold, not as a chart of dates, but as a soft geography that smells faintly of reed and old papyrus. One might suppose that to place Canopus precisely on a map would be to flatten it. Instead, we prefer to trace the feel of its position, where a branch of the Nile met the Mediterranean, making a mouth and a harbor, a place favored by merchants, lovers of ease, and votaries who like the sea for its temperate patience. Imagine the delta as a wide, whispering margin, sediment drifting like slow breath, channels making and unmaking shorelines in a fashion that is almost conversational. Currents here act like marginalia on a long, slow page, annotating and erasing with equal politeness. The geography is not a single line but a braided conversation between river and sea, and Canopus sat at a convenient, ceremonial bend where boats found mooring and processions found beach. It is a curious fact that rivers remember trade as much as they remember flood. In the smell of an old quay, one can read the outline of routes and commodities. In Canopus, the scent might have been citrus and fish and resin. The soundscape would include the low, metrical rasp of rope on post and the repeated count of coin. We will allow these small clues to place us rather than a string of coordinates. They are more useful to our ears than a list of latitudes. The reader will perhaps imagine a shoreline lined with villas and peristyles, colonnades thrown open to the breeze, small shrines set like beads along a rope of path. Between these domestic architectures ran the nuts and stitches of public life, market lanes, small quays, a temple or two whose bells kept civil time. These are not grand monuments for our purpose, but human-scale places where hands worked and children learned to measure the world. Geology and habit intertwined here. The delta's sediment could bury a quay slowly in silt, while a single seismic shudder might rearrange a channel. Both processes are audible in different registers if one listens carefully. The scientist listens to cores as to a layered book. Each sample is a sentence, and sometimes the sentences contradict one another in a way that is both vexing and, I confess, rather lovely. We should be comfortable living within such contradiction. History is often a polyphonic text. Consider, in practical terms, how preservation happens. An anoxic pocket of mud, starved of oxygen, becomes an indifferent conservator, protecting organic wood that would otherwise be gone. A ceramic shard holds its glaze like a preserved voice. A coin keeps the press of a thumb. The peat and sand here are not enemies of memory, but the keepers of certain intimacies. We hear this as a comfort. The sea keeps small things with a tenderness we might envy. There are human stories braided into the physical map. Sailors who preferred 1 li of the coast in summer, potters who set kilns just beyond the edge of salt meadows, priests who led a procession from temple to shore at a season when fish were plentiful. These practices leave soft acoustic signatures, a bell struck at a particular hour, a repeated call at the quay, children's feet pattering by a colonnade. And those signatures are the threads archaeologists follow when they listen beneath the waves. Archaeologists, for all their instruments, remain tender listeners. Sonar offers a gray sketch. It sings in pulses and returns a ghostly inkling of plan. Cores yield pollen grains that whisper of olive and reed. Radiocarbon gives a probabilistic shorthand for time. None of these devices claims absolute authority. Together they form a chorus that helps us place seeds of story in the right season. It is a curious fact that technology often asks us for the same thing as poetry: patience. We will introduce, now, the primary motif we carry into the city's depths: a carved threshold, a peristyle courtyard, a single lintel ornamented with a modest circle motif. These are the small, human signs that will guide our path, not as proof, but as invitation. Imagine them as bookmarks in a long book of tides, each bookmark placed by an ordinary hand that wanted a small, lasting mark. Let us close this small frame with a breath reminder. Inhale in line with the river's slow push. Exhale like the returning sea. Feel the positions of your feet or the chair beneath you, and let the quiet pleasure of being informed, not instructed, settle in. We will follow these soft geographies together, learning to read Canopus by the sound of its habitual gestures rather than by the cold clarity of a map. We will pause, for a while, at the city's quieter question, not a demand for explanation but a gentle, lingering wonder that sits like a small bell beneath the water. How did courtyards that once echoed with feet and song come to be laid out like a map of silences? Feel for a moment the cool clay beneath our imagined toes, the slow give of silt around an unseen step. Notice how a column's base has become a low, animal drum under the palm of the sea. There are, in the study of ruins, many grammars of disappearance. One might suppose at first that the simplest story would be the truest: a violent night, a single scar left across the coast. That is the sudden breach account, a seismic sleep that begins with percussion, a tightening of ropes, a thunder of water finding new throat, a single great sound after which nothing is quite the same. The acoustic image is blunt and memorable, and stories prefer memorable things because they make clean narratives. Yet evidence is not obliged to be tidy. In cores, in stratified pages of peat and sand, we sometimes find the quieter voice of what I will call the patient return. Here the shore yields in long syllables, wells tasting faintly of salt, reed beds shifting their allegiances, thresholds raised and then abandoned over generations. The acoustic signature of this account is low and sustained, a groaning breath, a reed's persistent rasp, and it grants people time to alter habits, to move hearths, to change where they lay their nets. It is an attractive theory because it leaves room for farewell and for small adaptations practiced for seasons, not for a single night's grief. There is a third grammar that shames the romantic and rewards the practical historian: the human slow undoing. Peat cut for fires, hedges pulled, drainage altered, small acts in themselves, aggregate into large consequence. This explanation's sound is domestic: the scrape of a spade, the cart wheels measured round, the repetitive clamp of a hand tying rope. Its moral is awkward because culpability diffuses. Responsibility becomes communal and ongoing rather than heroic and assignable. One must face the melancholy of everyday causality with a steady heart and a willingness to name slow consequences without using them as cudgels. It is a curious and consoling fact that the sediment often agrees with all three grammars at once. Seams of sudden sand lie above horizons of creeping salinity, and beside channels where peat was evidently cut. The landscape reads like a palimpsest of reasons. Does that ambiguity discomfort us? Sometimes. Does it also protect us from the cruel simplicity of single-actor stories? Yes, and for our purpose that plurality is less a frustration than a mercy. It allows us to settle into listening rather than into verdict. Amid these large, patient assertions, we must still honor the smallest silences, because it is in them that human life registers most candidly. Picture, if you will, a child pausing at a peristyle and dropping a tiny wooden animal into a folded cloth, or imagine a potter wrapping a treasured tool before a family moves upriver. These gestures are not dramatic. They are domestic choreography. To find such an object in peat is not to be given an answer, but to be offered an intimacy. A thumb polish, a smear of ochre, the exact curve of a carved ear. When we lay a gloved finger upon that curve, a private conversation begins between then and now. Permit us, for a gentle moment, to enter a small chamber, a ziggurat-like niche tucked into a raised terrace that watched the river mouth. It is not vast nor monumental. It is modestly domestic, a place of lamps and niches rather than trompe-l'oeil grandeur. The water hushes itself as if to spare the privacy of the space. In a peat pocket within this chamber, a conservator will later find, and we imagine finding now, a tiny object, a wooden toy no larger than a thumb, smoothed by use and bearing a faint crescent of pigment. We hold it, in imagination, with reverence. Its smallness absurdly enlarges our capacity for tenderness. We do not dramatize this moment. We do not need to. The toy does not adjudicate the cause of submergence. It does, however, translate the abstract into the immediate. It says, plainly and without accusation, that small human acts happened here and mattered. When a conservator lifts such a thing into light, the room often grows quieter in a way that carries the gravity of prayer. People lean forward involuntarily, and some will speak a name or a wish as if to greet a sudden relation across time. Listen for the sound of absence in its own register. There are places where the hearth's echo is missing, where a scale no longer answers a hand, where the measured tapping of a potter's tool ceases in a profile. Absence becomes a kind of score. One reads not only what remains, but where the music stops. How do we weigh an absent laugh against a preserved coin? Perhaps both are needed. Each teaches a different lesson about what mattered to life on the shore. There is, finally, an ethical cadence to our listening. When we accept that multiple causes often conspire to bring about a change, we avoid the cruelty of single culpability and open a space for collective care. What does that care look like? Small things, the careful recording of a site, the decision to leave certain features in situ, the making of replicas so that children may touch without harm. These measures are humble, practical, and full of a particular tenderness. We end this reflection with a slow breath. Inhale the imagined reed and salt. Exhale any urgency to resolve the city's fate. Let curiosity remain soft and patient. The threshold remembers, the column keeps its rhythm, and we, gently, attentively, keep our part as listeners and heirs. Dawn moves here as if remembering a slow ritual. A pale wash along the quay, ropes sending along, hoarse rasp as they free from posts, and the first crates settling with a small, final slap that sounds like a punctuation. We stand at the water's edge and let the port speak in its quiet instruments. The wet rope, the planks sigh, the low counting of a man who has learned to measure days by the heft of a crate. Feel, beneath a mindful foot, the give of sand damp with tide. Feel the small tightening of the calf as a boat noses in. Let the rhythm of that movement match your breathing for a moment. Inhale with the load being drawn up. Exhale as it settles back. We follow a porter as our guide, not because his life is exceptional, but because his repetition is exceptional in its ordinary persistence. Each knot tied is a small liturgy, each counted coin a soft drumbeat in the city's slow music. The quay is less a grand stage than a patient workshop. Men and women moving in economies of care, their actions modest and exact. A mariner unlatches a crate with a practiced thumb, and the sound is brief and knowing. A child watching will later run a hand along the crate's edge and learn the grain of ship wood as if learning letters. The tactile curriculum of shore life is taught in these small touches. One might suppose that trade is loud and advertised, but often it is a whisper between hands. Listen to the counting. 1 for the bundle, 2 for the sack, 3 for the net. The counting is not arithmetic alone. It is a social meter, a slow metronome that teaches trust and memory. We hear the count as a lullaby of commerce, a steadying device that organizes the day and soothes anxieties about loss. Pause with us on the third count and breath in. Let the repetition become a small anchor. There is an architecture to the port that is mostly informal: staggered posts, temporary planking, ropes that remember previous tides. And yet within this improvisation there is craft. The way a rope is made fast, the angle at which a plank is pitched, the particular dip of a quay reveal a community's accumulated solutions. These are modest inventions, not monuments, and in their modesty they carry the city's long competence. Smells are important here. A single inhalation may gather fish oil, citrus peel, and a trace of resin used to mend broken timbers. The nose records trade as the body's ledger. Smell is a domestic historian. It keeps trades in the memory as surely as any ledger might. The potter's glaze and the oil-based sealant have an olfactory signature that marks workshops and piers. In time, the sea will carry these signatures into the silt, where they write quiet testimonies. Our attention drifts, then, to a brief vignette. A porter and a mariner exchange a small joke over a rolled sail. Laughter is low and economical. A child mimics the beat with their small foot. An elder nearby nods with a patience that blesses continuity. There is no high drama, only the slow choreography of tasks done well, repeated until the body knows them by memory. Such repetition is a social muscle. It strengthens bonds as surely as rope ties a post. The quay's edge records its own history. Look, in imagination, at a worn notch in a post where a net was repeatedly tied. Imagine many hands over seasons leaving that groove, teaching new hands to make the same knot. These grooves act as a tacit curriculum, allowing skills to pass hand to hand without many words. We, who listen, can trace these grooves as if we were reading a communal manual written in wood. Between the cargo and the courtyard lies the notion of belonging. A crate unloaded becomes part of a household's inventory. A rope coiled becomes the port's own punctuation. A casual nod between a porter and a shopkeeper is a civility that accumulates into a city's trust. Small acts of exchange are ethical acts. They are the way a community sustains itself. One might say they are the moral acoustics of the quay. We will let the counting slow and the rope rasp fade into a softer wash. Breathe with the settling crate. Inhale long as the load lifts. Exhale slow as it rests. Allow your shoulders to surrender a little with each exhale, and let the port's modest rhythm ease the mind into the next image, the Great Oak Avenue, where children learn to step by the tree's slow breath. Pause here a moment longer. Feel the impression of dockwood underfoot, the salt in the air settling in the throat, the small, steady beat of a community finding rhythm in repetition. We carry these modest sounds forward as we walk away from the quay. Their ordinary music will continue to underpin the city's life beneath water and in memory. The villa's colonnade is a slow instrument, marble cool beneath imagined palms, columns that keep conversation like a well-paced chorus, and mosaic tiles that still hum with the memory of footsteps. We move through such courtyards as if following a scent, citrus and oil, a thread of incense that will not shout, but will remind. Notice how the colonnade arranges day into measured acts. A servant crossing with a tray, the soft clink of a cup, a child's coin dropped in a shallow gutter, and then fished with careful patience. In such small actions, the life of Canopus most insistently remains. It is not the palace's facade that endures so much as the pressure of fingers on a vessel's rim. One might suppose grandeur is column and pediment, yet the real grandeur here is modest and domestic. Slide your attention over a mosaic, a tiny tessera described as if by fingertip, the coolness of its edge under a hand that remembers tool and thumb. The mosaic sings in small intervals, a footfall here, a kneel there, and it holds a map of habit rather than of rank. We imagine a woman sweeping, her movement a small meter that repeats until muscle remembers and the city can rely on her steadiness. These repeated acts are the city's real architecture. There is a private lamp in many courtyards, a shallow bowl for offerings. The wick's thin hiss is as instructive as any bell. The incense thread rises in a column and knits kitchen and shrine together. The courtyard's whisper is domestic theology. Why do such small rites persist? Because they touch the immediate register of lived life, belief and bread sharing a single table, and those gestures are profoundly preservable. Feel now the tactile detail, the grain of a wooden cup, the coin's slight weight between finger and thumb, the marble's coolness underfoot. These particulars are anchors. They bring the body inward. Let shoulders loosen as if setting down a tray. Let breath lengthen with each small, described motion. Nearby, the potter's yard emits its own gentle song. The wheels whisper, a thumb's patient pressure against clay, the soft tick when a vessel is judged complete. The potter's motion is circular and calming. It teaches endurance because the same careful arc is repeated until form submits. Imagine hands shaping a bowl, fingers leaving an imprint that survives long after the maker is dust. Such imprints become voices we can hear if we lean in. A hearth in a corner courtyard draws smoke into a thin plume that tastes faintly of cumin and charred grain. The housewife who tends at times tea and stew with a hand that knows the coals. The smell of cooking becomes a mnemonic, anchoring names and recipes and small domestic laws and scent. It is a curious fact that smell is one of the most resilient archivists. Scent can carry memory across years like a folded note. Conservators, working later, speak softly of these residues. A soot pattern can indicate a family's ritual hour. A wear on a step can show where an elder paused each evening. They handle fragments with gloves and small brushes, coaxing stories from dust. Without hurry, they wash away centuries of mud to reveal a thumb polish, a cup ring, a child's doodle incised where a pot was once spun. One might suppose that conservation is purely technical, yet it is also an act of listening and of ethical tenderness. Tucked into many courtyards, a small garden where herbs are grown in low amphorae, marjoram for stew, mint for cooling draughts, and the gardener's hands are trained to the plant's particular temperament. The rustle of leaves is a soft percussion, the careful pruning a practiced language. We can imagine the gardener tracing a leaf with a fingertip and naming it aloud, teaching a child the scent of mint so that the child will carry that memory like a compass. Such botanical intimacies anchor a household as surely as any formal law. Occasionally, a small tune lifts from a doorway, a lullaby, a counting rhyme, and the peristyle answers kindly, making song into a gentle echo. These vocal fragments are not dramatic, but they are persistent. They teach rhythm and register the household's time. When conservators later reveal a mosaic, they sometimes find a smear of pigment or a cup ring, details that read as gestures of habit rather than as ornate markers. It is a curious fact that the smallest marks often tell us most about how people live. There is a small pedagogy on many thresholds. A child tracing a pattern with a finger, a teacher showing how to count olives by tens, an elder naming constellations seen from the courtyard at dusk. These moments are the apprenticeship of civic life. They teach the young how to inhabit the place kindly and with respect. In such small handings-on, continuity breathes. Pause now. Imagine a child's coin flashing faintly under a slow film of water, the toy's outline half hidden in silt. Breathe with that image. Inhale slowly as if lifting the coin. Exhale as if settling it back. Allow the body to mirror the courtyard's measured pace. These domestic intimacies are why we stay close to the villa's small scale. They teach us tenderness, a way of keeping that resists spectacle. Let the courtyard at evening rest in your mind. The lamp guttering, the potter's wheel slowing to hush, the gardener folding a leaf into a pot, a child asleep with a coin in the palm. Feel your shoulders settle as if a tray has been set down. Feel the jaw unclench as if the day's small labors are concluded. Keep the coin's tiny weight in the palm of your imagination for a few moments more. Let it be a lodestone for our attention as the city continues to speak in soft, ordinary rhythms. The temple terrace draws us with a very different kind of sound, a set of small, repeated tones that do not command so much as gather. A bell struck with discreet patience, the thin hiss of oil in a lamp, the whisper of cloth folded and placed as an offering. We move up gentle steps as if following a melody, and the air here carries the faint, cool scent of incense braided with sea-born reed. Notice the bell's economy, one measured toll, then a space in which breath is intentionally extended. The bell is not a summons to action so much as a punctuation for thought. It structures the day the way a metronome structures a song, and in that structure worship and habit find their shared rhythm. One might suppose that religious life is high drama, and sometimes it is. In Canopus, however, ritual prefers the domestic register. Small offerings, private invocations, a steady choreography of hands. The shrine itself is modest, a shallow niche, a low plinth, a bowl for oil, and a thread of cloth knotted as an intent. Votive acts are not grand sacrifices but quiet promises. A string of beads laid in a curl, a little dish left with grain, a thread tied to a nail with a whispered name. These gestures make space for the city's moral economy. They are the ways people apologize to unknown forces and remember one another in the grammar of everyday life. Listen for the worship that does not perform so much as stay, a whispered chant that repeats a single phrase until it becomes a kind of internal punctuation, a communal breathing that aligns the body with tide time. The chorus here is small and human. Voices are low and folded so that the sound does not travel far. To stand within such an acoustic is to be reminded that the sacred often lives in the modest dimensions of attention rather than in spectacle. It is a curious fact that offerings often read as domestic residues, a smear of oil where a lamp rested, a ring of soot on a stone, a slight erosion of a step from barefoot traffic. Conservators will one day read these marks as indexes of habit. The soot's width tells the frequency of a ritual. The polish on a plinth speaks to hands passed over it in repeated tenderness. Such traces are affectionate as much as they are informative. They are the fingerprints of quotidian reverence. We move, without hurry, through the processional space. A priest, imagined in slow detail, lifts a small bowl, rolls the palm in a practiced motion, and sets the oil to a wick. The lamp's first breath is a soft hiss, and then a steady, contented glow. Nearby, a child makes a small offering, tentative and solemn. The act is a lesson in scale and care, taught as gently as one might teach a child to fold a cloth. These moments are private instruction in civic piety. Ritual sound is remarkably useful for calming a crowd because it gives everyone a shared tempo. A bell, a chant, the measured clack of a bead. These are civic technologies for synchronizing attention. In quieter moments, they double as lullaby. The same pattern that aligns a procession can align breath. Let us, for a moment, Inhale with the bell's stroke and exhale through its resonant tail. Allow this internalization of tempo to steady the nervous system. There are votive gestures that survive in unexpected ways. An amulet tucked into a niche that later becomes a sediment pocket. An offering of grain that fermented into an aromatic residue preserved in anaerobic mud. The sea is a capricious archivist, and yet it keeps some intimacies with surprising fidelity. When archaeologists find such pockets, the discovery is less an archaeological coup than a small reunion with a private ceremony. The object's recovery often feels like touching a folded letter. The temple precincts also foster communal shaping. Festivals that do not explode but extend, summer processions that arc from shore to shrine in soft measures, seasonal observances that link fishing cycles to ritual schedules. These public calendars are a kind of civil weather. Knowing when to set nets and when to lay offerings is a way of reading the city's pulse. We imagine these calendars as slow and reassuring, their recurrence functioning like a repeated breath the population can trust. Consider, for a closing heartbeat in this terrace, a tiny votive left in a water-worn niche, a bead, a small shell, a carved peg, and imagine a conservator's gloved hand lifting it and letting it uncurl its story in silence. The object's modesty enlarges our tenderness. It tells us not what kings ordered, but what ordinary bodies needed to feel steadied. When small offerings end up underwater, they acquire a new dignity. In their quiet survival, they become proofs of care rather than of triumph. We will leave the terrace with the bell's slow echo still in our minds. Breathe with its aftertone. Inhale as the sound rings. Exhale as it fades. Feel shoulders loosen and a small gratitude rise in the chest. The temple's work is not to command, but to keep. It teaches habituation of attention, which is perhaps the gentlest form of devotion. We will sit with 3 ways of hearing and ending, not to choose one as absolute, but to let each tune the heart differently. First, imagine the sudden inlet, a night when the sea rearranged its voice, when wind and water found a new throat, and the harbor's neat grammar dissolved in a single percussion, ropes snapping, doors taken in a single, startling breath. The sound image is sharp and memorable, and stories prefer sharp images because they make a whole plot easy to hold. If the sudden inlet speaks like a drum, the patient return speaks like a reed bed, long, low, and full of small changes. Picture wells tasting faintly of salt one year, a family raising a floor the next, reed species quietly altering their borders over generations until houses are lived within different thresholds. This narrative has a sound of its own, the slow rasp of grass, the measured adjust of hands, the soft, repetitive architecture of adaptation, and it offers consolation because it allows time for farewell and for small acts of accommodation. There is, finally, the human slow undoing. Countless small gestures accumulated, peat cut for fires, hedges pulled, drainage nudged, acts ordinary in isolation and significant in some. Its acoustic register is domestic, spade on marsh, cartwheels measured sigh, the low, confidential rhythm of tasks repeated across seasons. If we are honest, this is the saddest theory, because it diffuses culpability. It asks us to accept that endings may be the sum of gentle negligence and daily need, and that responsibility is communal rather than theatrical. Listen to how each account frames our attention differently. The sudden inlet makes us notice catastrophe. The patient return invites habits of farewell. Human undermining asks for civic humility. Is one truer than another? Our sediments often refuse simple adjudication. Cores contain seams that read like storm and like slow salinization. Pollen diagrams whisper of reed encroachment beside buried lenses of sand that might read as single storm deposits. The archive is polyphonic. It prefers layered testimony to a single loud verdict. In the hush after these theories, we turn to small intimacies because they make the abstract immediately humane. Picture a woman tucking a child's carved animal into a fold of cloth and setting it in a niche because the water is rising a little sooner than it used to. Imagine a potter wrapping a favorite tool before a household moves. These gestures are not dramatic. They are domestic choreography. To find such an object in peat is not to be given an answer, but to be offered in intimacy. A thumb polish, a smear of ochre, the curve of a carved ear. When a conservator lays a gloved finger upon that curve, a private conversation begins between then and now. We imagine another modest scene. A farmer tasting his well and deciding to edge the granary inland by a pace. The acoustic of those moves, a measured dragging of a sack, a single cart's hollow thud, is not heroic, but it keeps life practical and ongoing. One might suppose such practical stories lack romance. They are often more human and, for our purposes, more consoling. For the scholar, there is a particular delight in contradiction. When cores present both a sand lens and signs of gradual salinization, we practice epistemic modesty, allowing multiple causes to coexist as actors in a long play. It is a curious fact that geological patience and human impatience often collaborate to create an ending. Neither works alone. This complexity should not frustrate our desire for tidy stories. It should invite a softer attention and openness to layered meanings. Consider, also, the voice of local memory, an elder's saying in a shed, "The water changed its tune in my father's time," a sentence that offers cadence more than chronology. Oral testimony rarely yields firm dates, but it gives texture and feeling. It is evidence of a human register that deserves gentle hearing. Is such testimony less authoritative than a lab result? It is different evidence, intimate, contingent, and vital, and when paired with cores and sonar, it helps stitch a humane chorus from otherwise separate lines. We return, quietly, to the modest ziggurat niche we visited earlier, that small chamber tucked into a terrace. The peat pocket inside preserves a thumb-sized toy smoothed by use. The object does not decide a cause, but offers scale and tenderness. Put your imagined hand on the lintel above that chamber. Feel the cool stone under the fingertips, the faint abrasion where many palms have passed. That touch need not be literal to move us. It teaches empathy by aligning our present body with a past palm. How shall we live with such uncertainty? By choosing small acts of care. Record, leave certain things in place. Create replicas for children's hands. Teach restraint. These are civic habits, and their sound is soft. The tap of pen on paper, the low murmur of a public meeting, the steady footfall of a volunteer walking a cordoned path. Such everyday noises can begin repair and keep the past legible without plundering it. Now, let your body mimic the shore's patience. Feel the support beneath you. Let shoulders soften. Breathe slowly as if tuned to the delta's long exhale. The ethical practice of attention begins in posture. Steadiness in body invites steadiness of care. We will continue to listen to the layered dialects of evidence with a patience that does not belittle complexity, but honors it. We will let the narrative slow even more now, and allow ourselves to drift into the tiny economies of nature that keep company with ruins. Listen for the algae, which moves with the patience of a scholar turning pages. It sways in long, slow arcs and presses soft green against stone like a gentle annotation. The algae's motion is not busy. It is an extended verb of being, and if you attend, you may find your own breathing matching its patient oscillation. The barnacle keeps a quieter percussion, tiny clicks and small adhesions, a muffled insistence that things may cling and persist. Beneath our imagined palm, the peat feels like softened velvet. It receives objects and holds them in low custody, preserving the ordinary as if in a cautious hand. When conservators speak of peat, They often use words that sound almost sanctimonious, anoxic, preservative, but for us the poetic truth is simpler. Peat is a slow, kindly archivist that prefers to keep rather than to show. And the shell records seasons like a metronome. A mollusk lays down a minute ridge, then another, and in their succession a calendar forms. It is a curious fact that shells are patient historians. Given time, they will count out the year for you, not in dates, but in texture. Listen to that counting imaginatively, one slight ridge after another, and let each ridge steady a small thought into place. Consider the worms, if you will, humble translators of detritus, whose slow work aerates and settles sediments. They are not glamorous, but they perform an essential ministry, transforming what would rot into what will keep. Their sounds are almost inaudible. They are gestures of micro-ingenuity. For a moment, picture the tunnel a worm makes as a tiny corridor of possibility, a channel for slow conversation between micro-worlds. We may indulge, too, in a soft anecdote about barnacles that once irritated a shipwright who then learned to read their patterns. Swirl anvil marks here, a cluster of growth there, and the shipwright could tell roughly where the hull had been moored and for how long. Such knowledge is not the stuff of headlines, but of practiced ears and patient hands. The natural world here teaches craft by slow example. We are taught to attend, not to conquer. And the algae waits, and the algae waits. The phrase is a small litany we return to, a low lullaby that lowers the pitch of thought. Repeat it once in the mind and allow the repetition to act as an anchor. And the algae waits, and the algae waits. Let the cadence loosen worry in the chest. Sometimes stone becomes a small theater of growth, lichen in rings like faded script, a turf of seaweed sketching new margins, a snail's trail that dries into a faint seam. These are not grand narratives. They are the daily notation of life adjusting its scale. We are taught, by such details, that the world writes itself in marginalia, and that those margins are often the most instructive pages. There is particular solace in the way reeds bend and bend again. A marsh reed does not break at first pressure, it learns to yield. This yielding is a model for how communities might respond to persistent change, not by brittle resistance, but by graceful modulation. One might suppose that this is a sentimental reading, yet the morphology of reed banks is instructive. Give, adapt, survive. The reed's soft thrum becomes metaphor, but also practical pedagogy. We will pause here and feel the body. Notice the cool clay beneath our imagined toes. Feel the small steadiness at the base of the spine. Acknowledge how the breath has lengthened. These are not exercises in make-believe, but methods of returning inward through sensory attention. When the mind begins to wander, bring it back to a single, small natural detail. A barnacle's click, a shell's ridge, the algae's slow arc, and rest there. There is a kind of gentle theology in slow processes. Time itself becomes a caretaker. Seasons layer one upon another until what once was bright is now soft and folded. The ocean's patient strokes blur sharpness into texture. This long patience reassures. Disappearance need not be an erasure, but can be a transformation into other kinds of presence. The peat keeps what we might otherwise lose. The shell remembers what the eye forgets. Let us end this little digression with a soft instruction. Inhale as the algae leans toward light. Exhale as it returns to its green repose. Repeat 2 slow cycles, and, on the exhale, let some tightness in the body loosen. A shoulder drop, a slackened jaw. We will carry this softened attention back with us as we re-enter human rooms and the conservator's lamp, having learned that nature's quiet machinery is itself a lullaby for the mind. We will follow, now, the gentle thread by which the modern world comes to know what the sea has kept. The sequence is not cinematic but domestic, a net that catches more than fish, a phone's dull photograph that wakes curiosity, A surveyor's gray blip, a diver kneeling in cold shallows, and a lab table that smells faintly of ethanol and hope. It begins with a snag. A fisherman hauling his gear at low tide feels an unusual weight, a sodden resistance that is not merely weed, but an ordered tangle of peat and timber. He lifts, and there, between rope and knot, some blackened root or plank looks like intentional wood. The sound of the net is a soft, wet thud, and his boat becomes quiet as if listening. He brings the snag alongside, wipes with a sleeve, and in the wet cloth the texture of human workmanship shows, the rounded notch of an earlier tool. He takes a photograph, a small, sheepish light from a glass screen, and posts it to a local forum where curiosity and neighborliness keep watch. The image is blurred, a stump, half submerged, the color of old charcoal. Yet the forum gathers like a small village, and a reply arrives that reads, in time, as an invitation. This is worth a look. The camera click becomes a pebble. The pebble ripples outward. A surveyor hears the pebble and comes with a device that listens and pulses. Sonar is an odd ear. It pings, then waits, and returns a gray impression as if the sea were being sketched in pencil. The blip on a monitor is not dramatic. It is a polite punctuation that invites further attention. When the operator inclines toward the screen, the room takes on the hush of study. Paper, coffee, the slow. He takes a photograph, a small, sheepish light from a glass screen, and posts it to a local forum where curiosity and neighborliness keep watch. The image is blurred, a stump, half submerged, the color of old charcoal. Yet the forum gathers like a small village, and a reply arrives that reads, in time, as an invitation. This is worth a look. The camera click becomes a pebble. The pebble ripples outward. A surveyor hears the pebble and comes with a device that listens and pulses. Sonar is an odd ear. It pings, then waits, and returns a gray impression as if the sea were being sketched in pencil. The blip on a monitor is not dramatic. It is a polite punctuation that invites further attention. When the operator inclines toward the screen, the room takes on the hush of study. Paper, coffee, the slow exhale of machines calibrated to be patient. From such small recognitions, a quieter profession arrives. A diver bends in shallow, cold water, the surface pressing with a soft buoyancy. She kneels, fingers sifting peat, feeling rather than seeing. The underwater world has its own tiny acoustics. The muffled click of a tool, the whisper of silt, the distant, rhythmic breath of a pump. And when a gloved hand meets a worked edge, there is a private, astonished silence. Back on shore, the lab table is a different kind of chapel. There is the small clink of trays, a brush's hush across timber, the soft hiss of distilled water loosed to reveal grain. Conservators speak in modest voices, record first, then rinse, keep damp, slow the drying. Gloves make a papery sound, tweezers click like a polite metronome. A small object rests in a tray and the room inhales. The sound of concentrated attention is almost itself a care. Public notice arrives slowly and kindly. A scheduled low-tide walk, a careful notice in a local paper, elders brought in to point where their fathers once moored boats. There are guided tours that feel like suppers, small groups, low lamps, measured steps, and school children who handle replicas and whisper questions about the shape of a coin or the softness of a bead. The tone is civic, not sensational. The crowd's whisper is like a chorus in which everyone agrees to keep the volume low. Ethical questions move through these proceedings as quiet as a tide. Should an object be lifted or left to sleep? Does publicity risk harm? Meetings are held in rooms that smell of tea and wet coats. Decisions are taken with a practiced civility. Often the answer is to wait, to watch, to record, and to replicate rather than to remove. Waiting becomes an ethical act, an intentional patience that honors fragility rather than demanding spectacle. Tender private moments persist within official procedure. Imagine the fisherman who first hauled the snag sitting alone by a low lamp, brushing silt with an old spoon to reveal a subtle thumb polish on a toy, and feeling an unexpected hush in his chest. He brings it to the conservator in a small boat. The conservator, gloved, accepts the piece with a wordless small bow, and the exchange is domestic and sacred. There is no press release. There is a cup of tea, a scribbled log entry, and the quiet decision to keep the object safe while the community learns restraint. These small recognitions are more than data. They are invitations to continuity. A photograph becomes a plotted, a sonar blip becomes a scheduled survey. A diver's gentle touch begins cataloging that will allow a child, in years hence, to hold a replica and feel an echo of another child's thumb. The instruments of the modern world translate the sea's language into stewardship when used without haste. We feel the chill at our wrists and the warmth of the lamp in the lab as part of one flowing scene. Match your breath for a moment to the sonar's patient pulse. Inhale on the waiting, exhale as the echo returns, and let the rhythm assure you that discovery can be a conversation, not a storm. We sink a little deeper now, companionably, and descend with care into a chamber that is not grand but intimate, a pocket of rooms that once curated small domestic cults and private light. The stair we follow is shallow, step after softened step, each one keeping the memory of a footfall like a faint groove. Imagine your hand on the cool stone balustrade, though we do not press hard. Let contact be imagined, not invasive. The chamber has the hush of a well-closed book, lamp halos thinning into shadow, the gentle drip of water like punctuation, peat pockets soft enough to receive and hold objects whole. A ziggurat-like niche opens into a peristyle reduced to human scale. It is domestic rather than monumental, a bowl on a plinth rather than a frieze meant for show. We are not in the presence of empire, but in the presence of daily devotion. Sense the temperature change as we move inward. The air, if one may still call it that, is cooler and carries a faint metallic trace that suggests old oils and ochre. There is a tiny scent of resin and something like linen left too long in a storeroom. These scents are faint but precise, and they teach the body to attend by way of small particulars. One might suppose that archaeology is all about grandeur. It is a curious fact, however, that the most moving discoveries are often humble. Here, in this chamber, Pete has preserved a pocket in which a single small object rests in a bed of silt like a token placed under a hand. A wooden toy no larger than a thumb, its surface smoothed by fingers, a faint crescent of pigment marking an ear or a smile. We imagine ourselves leaning close as conservators will do, the light of a lamp haloing the object, and the room contracting to the measure of that minute's shape. When the conservator lifts such an object, there is, often, a sound that is not loud but is nevertheless significant. The soft intake of breath in the room, a chair nudged back, the quieting of voices. The lab table that receives the toy will be a different theater, tiled surface, distilled water in a cup, bench lights warm and kind. Gloves make a papery clap, tweezers click with careful politeness. Brushes whisper against grain. These are the noises of repair and of respect. The conservator works in small cycles. Record, photograph, sample, keep damp, slow the drying. Each step is a promise to the object and to those who will inherit stories about it. And she speaks in a voice that is practical and tender. We will keep it moist. We will note the pigment. We will not rush. Note how science in such hands is a form of listening. Instruments are not interrogators, but translators. Imagine now the tactile detail. The toy's edge bears a heat polish where a thumb once rested. A hairline fracture follows a curve that suggests repeated play. The pigment, when coaxed, blooms into a tiny ochre smile. These small revelations do not tell large truths about politics or conquest, but they tell everything one needs to know about ordinary life. Hands that made and hands that loved, a child for whom this object was a small companion. The object becomes an emissary of intimacy across years. There is a private rite here that no public procession attends. A conservator will sometimes pause with an object cupped to the lamp and murmur a name. It may be a catalog number, or it may be a soft, hospitable hello offered to the long-silent maker. We do not laugh at this modest human ritual, because it is precisely the kind of tenderness that binds researchers to the dead in a humane pact. The toy is not an artifact only, it is a node of relation. We accompany the object from chamber to table in imagination. Fingers lift, silt rinses away in patient waters, microscopic grains yield to brushes, and slowly the wooden surface reads like a map of small lives. There is remote data, carbon dates, pigment analyses, that will eventually place the object within a plausible season, yet the immediate effect is human and intimate. The lab is a chapel of small gestures. Even the hum of instruments here is not intrusive. A small centrifuge purrs in the background like a patient engine. A microscope's click is intermittent and companionable. When the conservator logs the find, there is a soft scribble rather than a trumpet. When she sets the toy in a humidity-controlled box, it is with the calm of someone tucking a child into bed. These analogies are not flippant. They simply point to the same ethic of care. This inner chamber, modest and close, reframes our whole approach. The ziggurat need not be a monument of empire. It can be a tiered set of rooms that learn to be kind to small objects. We leave the chamber with our attention refined, carrying the toy as if it were a small lamp, and with a renewed sense that history's tenderness can be accessed through a single, well-preserved thing. Feel the effect this has on the body. Let shoulders drop a fraction. Let the neck lengthen. Imagine the weight of your arms melting into the place that supports you. Breathe in time with the little procedures we described. Slow inhale as a tool lifts, longer exhale as the object rests, and let the rhythm teach steadiness. The conservator's patience becomes our own. We gather now in the soft, ordinary rooms of care, where decisions are made with teacups and tape measures, and where the language of preservation is as domestic as a well-tied knot, a civic tenderness practiced in the small hours and at low tide. Imagine a repaired shed by the quay where volunteers fold tarpaulins and check roped lines. Their steps are measured, their conversation low, and the sounds are unremarkable. A pin scratching, a tape unrolling, a boot heel tapping wood. And yet these unremarkable noises are the instruments of long memory. People come with practical hands. Teachers who will guide children to look without touching. Carpenters who will raise a board walk. Conservators who will insist that damp must be kept until the right moment. There is a particular economy to these acts. A volunteer traces a timetable across a scrap of cardboard. Another guards a newly exposed plank with a polite rope and a small sign. These are not heroic measures. They are rituals of restraint. In their repetition, they form habitual kindness. We sweep, we mend, we record. Repeat these phrases quietly with us now. We sweep, we mend, we record, and feel how repetition itself begins to steady the mind. Community meetings are held in modest rooms smelling faintly of tea and sea salt, and their cadence is gentle. An elder points with a finger to a notch on a hand-drawn map. A conservator explains humidity control in plain terms. A schoolteacher suggests a timetable for children's visits. The argument is rarely theatrical. It is pragmatic and careful. Citizens ask, and specialists reply, and together they practice a form of public modesty that strives to balance curiosity with care. One of the tenderest practices is the making of replicas. Imagine a craftsman shaping a plaster copy of a lintel rubbing so that small hands may explore pattern without touching the original. Imagine a teacher placing the replica in a child's palm and watching a young face learn the difference between handling and harming. Replication is not theft, but a translation, an ethical device that allows touch to become pedagogy rather than damage. There are small liturgies to conservation. The conservator's quiet recording ritual, the way an object is kept moist on a tray until the right moment, the slow, ceremonial drying that prevents splitting. The sounds in these rituals are minimal: a brush whispering, a pipette's soft drip, the murmured reading of a log entry, and each noise registers as commitment. These small practices convert expertise into care. They show that science, at its best, is an act of tenderness. We notice how local stories are invited into official records. An elder will tell where a quay once lay, and the archaeologist will note the line on a GPS. A fisherwoman's memory of a reef will be paired with a sonar line on a screen. Co-curation is not mere politeness. It is a corrective to extraction. It situates knowledge in lived experience, and in doing so it guards against the arrogance of collecting without listening. Children's workshops become a key of continuity. In a sunlit room, we imagine a teacher offering a replica bowl and instructing, "Hold it like this, 2 fingers beneath, the thumb resting here. Notice the weight." The child's small whisper, "I can feel the maker," is less fanciful than literal. Touch teaches empathy. These lessons are discreet and slow, and they seed a future public that knows restraint by habit rather than by prohibition. Practical decisions are translated into simple protocols: a timetable of tides for public visits, a limit on people at sensitive exposures, signage that teaches how to step lightly. There is love in these boxes of instruction. They are not cold bureaucracy, but the accumulation of small mercies designed to keep fragile things intact. The most effective policies are those that are practical and kind, and the town learns them as patterns of hand and foot. When something must be left in situ, the language is careful. We say a place is sleeping rather than exposed, that it is being kept under the sea's gentle hand until conditions are right. Such phrasing is not evasive, it is ethical imagination. It asks that we respect an object's ongoing existence in its place, and not insist that our hunger for possession should be its fate. There are also quieter, ceremonial moments, an annual low-tide walk where locals, young and old, step the shoreline together, pausing at a particular lintel to say a few words, a child's drawing placed in a small box and set near a public plaque, a community workshop where replicas are made and stories are told. These modest rituals build a civic liturgy of care, and their repetition fortifies memory more surely than a single grand exhibition ever could. If you will, place your attention now in the small economy of the body. Feel the chair beneath you, the weight of your hands, the steady contact of feet with floor or bed. Match your exhale to the soft measure of a volunteer's footfall. Let your inhale be the careful unrolling of a tape measure. These bodily mappings make the ethic of care literal. Posture teaches practice. We sweep, we mend, we teach, we guard. We make replicas, we listen to elders, we schedule visits with humility. In the accumulated quiet of these tasks, the city's past is kept present, not by hoarding, but by stewardship. Let that thought settle like an item placed gently on a table, and let the body mirror the steadiness we describe. We return, at last, to the tide's soft ledger and to the small things we have been carrying like lamps. The lintel with its modest circle, the thumb-polished toy, the stair that remembers feet, and we ask of the evening only to be a kindly place in which to fold them away. Feel the support beneath you, the chair or mattress that holds your weight, the solid point of contact at the soles of your feet. Let that sensation be the hinge by which the imagination closes gently and the body opens into rest. Bring the 4 images forward, one by one, and hold them lightly. First, sand, the warm granular grain that remembers footprints and smooths edges with every patient tide. Second, salt, the thin crystal breath that preserves certain things and loosens others, a small chemistry of keeping and release. Third, root, the silent architecture beneath the visible, blind and tireless, holding the shoreline's bones together. Fourth, breath, your breath, the tide's echo, a slow metronome that will let us into sleep. We will say these 4 phrases quietly and return to them as if laying out a cloth for tea. The sand remembers, the salt keeps and releases, the roots hold steady, the sea breathes on. Each phrase is a small bell. Say them softly in the mind, and after each allow a long, easy pause in which the phrase may settle like a pebble into water. Let us review, gently, the lintel. Imagine its cool stone under the palm of the mind, the carved circle like a small eye that looked toward the river and watched the boats. It is modest and unassuming, but in its modesty it keeps a human signature. The toy, no larger than a thumb, bears the warmth of a repeated hand and the faint smudge of ochre. When we think of it, we are not thinking of empire, but of a child's small companion and the civility of everyday tenderness. The stair is a pattern of use, a sequence of steps worn by many feet, and in wearing it shows the civic pulse of the place. The courtyard, with its slow echo, opens to the sky like the inside of a careful thought. Now, fold your attention back to the body. Feel your spine supported, the curve of your lower back cradled by whatever holds you. Let the shoulders lengthen as if the day's small burdens slide away like sand from a tray. Breathe with the tide. Inhale as the sea draws back. Exhale as it returns, longer out than in, and match the breath to the pulse of the 4 phrases. We will return to each phrase once more softly, and allow repetition to do the work of quieting. Say within, slowly, the sand remembers. Hold a long pause, and feel the graininess of thought smoothing under that idea. Say, the salt keeps and releases. Notice how this phrase both holds and lets go, and allow that double action to settle any small tightness in the chest. Say, the roots hold steady. Feel a low steadiness rise at the base of the body as if anchored by tendons. Say, the sea breathes on, and imagine the tide's respiration aligning with your own. There is a particular comfort in ritual repetition. The repeated phrase is not a talisman, but a manner of attention. We do not demand epiphany, we invite ease. Let the phrases become less like propositions and more like tactile textures. Sand under a finger, salt on the lips of memory, root in the hidden belly of place, breath as the only necessary work. The mind, having been given such small, concrete anchors, will often choose to rest alongside them. Imagine the lintel one last time in fading light. The carved circle catches a thin thread of sunset and then returns to a modest dark. It does not shout, it only keeps. Imagine the toy's ochre sighing into patina. Imagine the stair's last visible edge cupping a foot as if to teach it gentleness. These images are intimate. They require no narrative beyond themselves. We will now perform a gentle body scan, in which each region is named and invited to relax. Begin at the feet. Feel the cool contact they make, and send attention upward to ankles and calves, letting any remaining tension dissolve as if washed by a small, patient wave. Move to knees and thighs. Sense the weight of them and soften. Bring attention to the hips and lower back. Breathe into the place where root knot cares settle, and let breath be a small, mechanical friend that loosens the grip. Continue to the abdomen and chest. Feel the slow rise and fall. Let the ribs learn a larger patience. Soften the shoulders, slide away any held thought, and let the arms hang like ropes at rest. Relax the jaw, unclench the face. Allow the eyelids to be pleasantly heavy. We will repeat the 4-phrase motif again, each time softer and more distant, as if spoken from a garden beyond a closed window. The sand remembers, the salt keeps and releases. The roots hold steady. The sea breathes on. Let each repetition be followed by a long settling breath, and imagine the phrases imprinted as faint textures on the inside of the skull. If attention wanders, as it will, do not scold the mind. Note the diversion as one notes a passing gull and return to the phrase that feels most like home. The practice is not discipline so much as hospitality. Welcome stray thought, then show it a seat and let it rest. In this way, we teach kindness to ourselves, which is the first duty of company. Hear now a very slow, imagined cadence. A bell struck not to summon but to confirm presence, a distant gull thread, the hush of water pressing a thin field of light. These mild sounds are the ultimo costuming of the mind for sleep. They are the soft instruments that let the day fold in upon itself without complaint. We will listen to them as if listening to a familiar, comforting voice.